And now we're at the third. The third of the four opponent powers, the power of remedial action. Okay, so remedial action means that we're going to do a practice or some kind of activity that is in direct opposite, to any kind of negative action, and a practice that creates merit. So in this particular case, it's the visualization and the recitation of the Vajrasattva mantra. But it could also be prostrations, reciting the names of the 35 Buddhas, making offerings, like mandala offerings or water bowl offerings, reciting different mantras, meditating on bodhicitta, meditating on emptiness, helping to publish Dharma books for free distribution, offering your service to temples and monasteries, offering service in your community, like to a homeless shelter, or giving donations not only to monasteries and so forth, but to homeless shelters, or Doctors Without Borders, or any kind of virtuous activity. Can be part of the remedial actions. So there's a whole wide variety, and different people will be attracted to different ones. And within Buddhism, there's, or at least Tibetan Buddhism, there's a set of 9 practices that you usually try to do, as many as you can, of purifying and creating merit. So doing 100,000 Vajrasattva recitations is one of those. Okay? And doing 100,000 prostrations is another one. And as Ruby said to me today, she wished she had started them already. And I told her I always recommend to people, start your prostrations when you're young, when your body still works and you can do them. Okay? So she's young, but her foot's not cooperating at the moment. Okay, so here with Vajrasattva, how the remedial action goes. Okay, so you have Vajrasattva above the crown of your head. He's facing the same way as you do, and there's the flat moon disc at his heart with the letter Hum, and then the letters, the mantra standing around the Hum. Okay, so from the Hum at Vajrasattva's heart, light radiates in all directions, requesting all the Buddhas to bestow their blessings. So you're kind of invoking all the Buddhas and their positive energy. They accept the request and send white rays of light and nectar, the essence of which is the excellent qualities of their body, speech, and mind. Okay, so when you study the refuge chapter in Lamrim, then you'll know more about the qualities of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. And then that light and nectar from all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in all the directions, it absorbs into the Hum and into the mantra letters at Vajrasattva's heart. Okay, and they get so full of light and nectar that they can't just stay there. And so then the light and nectar fill all of Vajrasattva completely, okay, enhancing the magnificence of his appearance and increasing the brilliance of the mantra. And then the light and nectar is really, going. And so then it starts coming down into you. And so while reciting the mantra, visualize the white rays of light and nectar. Okay, so first you've invoked the Buddha sending out light. They've responded, sending back light and nectar into the Hum and mantra letters. Now that light and nectar has filled Vajrasattva completely, and now it starts coming down from Vajrasattva into you. Okay? So by reciting the mantra, visualize that white rays of light and nectar stream continuously from the Hum and mantra at Vajrasattva's heart. They flow down through the crown of your head. So it's not just on the outside of your body, but especially on the inside of your body. And they fill every cell of your body and mind with infinite bliss. Okay, so all that light nectar pours down through the crown of your head and goes entirely through every part of your body. And the light and nectar, it's the light of wisdom and compassion coming from all the Buddhas. So that's very blissful. Okay, so this whole process of purification is involved with bliss. Okay, the Judaic-Christian guilt and atonement is involved with pain. The worse I feel, the more I'm atoning. Here, it's bliss. Okay? So all that light nectar starts flowing into you and filling your entire body and mind with bliss. Now, one part of your mind may go, but, I'm not worthy. I'm a sinner. I can't feel bliss. I need to feel lousy. Sorry. That doesn't work here. That doesn't work here. You've got to throw that out. Okay? You got to throw it out. It doesn't work. Yeah? And we have to let this blissful wisdom and compassion of the Buddha into us and stop blocking it by saying, but I'm not worthwhile, and, I'm this, I'm that, all this kind of rubbish. We've got to open ourselves up to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and let the wisdom and compassion come in and experience the bliss of that. Okay? So it fills every cell of your body. So that means everywhere. Yeah? So, if you have an injury, or a sickness or something, the light and nectar goes there. Yeah? And you can imagine it healing, physically, through the force of purifying the karma that hasn't ripened yet. I mean, the karma that has already ripened and led to the sickness or injury, you can't purify because it's already ripened. But whatever unripened karma there is, that would perpetuate that, you imagine that gets purified and that area of your body gets healed. Okay? So it goes all through your entire body-mind. Yeah. So this is a kind of tantric mindfulness of the body. Okay? And usually when we do mindfulness of the body, we're thinking of the organs and how filthy the body is. Here, because we're doing purification, we imagine the body completely filled with this light, completely blissful. Okay? Can you imagine your body being blissful? I'm not saying satisfied with sensual pleasure and getting everything you want. I'm saying a state of body and mind in which you are not grasping onto all of that stuff. And the not grasping is what makes it very blissful. Okay? And so this is going throughout your entire body. It doesn't leave out your little finger. It doesn't leave out your intestines. It goes everywhere. Yeah. So it's really a thing also of making peace with the different parts of your body. And accepting them. I've never asked, the phantom limb thing, if the light and nectar goes there. But why not? Yeah. But it does go everywhere. And so let it flow in your body. Okay? And this is a visualization, so you're not seeing anything with your eyes. So don't sit there and scrunch up and try and see something. It's visualization. Okay, it's imagining, it's imagery. But imagery is very powerful, as we know. Yeah, when we want to retaliate, When we're angry at somebody and we want to retaliate, we rehearse it in our mind, don't we? And we imagine the other person, we imagine what we're going to say, we rehearse the whole thing. Okay, that's using our imagination in a totally, dysfunctional way. Here we're using it in a way to really bring about some good change. Yeah? So, you recite the mantra at least 21 times and more if possible while doing the visualization, the visualizations explained below. Okay, so you can sometimes just stick with this one here of the light and nectar filling and recite it. And also what's very nice to do is to imagine all sentient beings around you, especially people you've had problems with, especially people you've been engaged in negativities with. Imagine them all around you. Vajrasattva is also on their heads, and light and nectar is flowing down from their Vajrasattva into them at the same time as it's flowing from your Vajrasattva into you. So we're all getting purified. So especially, when you think of whole, situations that were just a mess and many people were involved, like maybe your family or maybe your workplace, or, where there's a lot of people and people are quarreling and backbiting, or who knows what's going on, or maybe your country. Like I was telling you the other day, I think we should do it for the U.S. Congress and the Supreme Court and the President and see if they can all get it together, and just imagine everybody getting purified like that. Okay? So all the people who want to buy more guns, they're all getting purified. All their animosity and craving for guns is getting completely washed out of them by Buddha's wisdom and compassion. It's very powerful to imagine like this. Okay? Or if somebody is sick, you do this for them, or they're going through a hard time, you do this for them, okay? And so then you recite the mantra. Yeah, when you're doing the retreat, you recite the mantra as fast as you can. Usually, we do it chanting out loud, and it's very powerful, isn't it, when the whole room is chanting? And when everybody's really, not just, Om Vajrasattva Samaya, but, you're really putting your heart into it, Om Vajrasattva Samaya, and everybody's doing that, it's like really powerful. So you can start out that way, but then, if you're doing a group retreat, but then you would go into doing it more, more quietlier, and then, some people say, but it's so hard to concentrate on the visualization and the mantra at the same time. And that's true. At the beginning it can be hard. So sometimes what you can do is really focus on the visualization and you're reciting the mantra, but it's more in the background. And other times you focus on the sound of the mantra and the visualization is more in the background. Yeah? And if you do that, you're doing great. Because probably most of the time you're going to be distracted. Yeah, I know when I did Vajrasattva retreat, my prime object of visualization was me, I, my, and mine. And that's what I thought about in the whole retreat. And once in a while I got distracted and imagined Vajrasattva and recited. No, seriously, this is what it was like. So, because you're doing purification. So like I was saying, if you're going to clean your house, you have to see the dirt. So Vajrasattva brings out your dirt. Yeah? Yeah, and you see this, and this whole meditation session, me, everything I've done in my life, how everybody's treated me, how I've treated them, blah, 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 blah. My life is unsatisfactory, and people do this, and nobody understands me, and they manipulate me, and they don't respect me, and they don't appreciate me, and, I'm a failure, I'm a disaster, I'm so full of anger, no wonder nobody loves me. And then once in a while you get Om Vajrasattva somebody in there. Yeah? Some of you have done Vajrasattva retreat. Is this true? Yeah? Uh-huh.
I don't understand that. Because if you do Vajrasattva, it's to purify yourself.
Right. So if you're going to purify
your stuff.
Yes, but what I'm saying is we're thinking of ourselves in a very self-centered way. Instead of thinking of ourselves in this way of really generating regret and a strong determination to not do it again, and having a mind that's really firm and sincere and clear in thinking about ourselves and our own negative deeds, instead of that, we're sitting there spinning around, blah, 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 this is wrong, that's wrong, I'm complaining about this, I don't like that, how come these people do this, how come all this self-centered rubbish that we're so accustomed to. That is the usual stuff that's going on in our mind. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about. Okay? So, you have to see all of this in order to realize how much you need to purify. Yeah, because some people tell me they do Vajrasattva retreat and it was just so blissful. And I'm really suspicious. Maybe if you're really, really highly realized. But the first 2 weeks is usually fairly blissful. Yeah. Then, all the old habits come up. All the old ways of talking to ourselves and about ourselves and to other people and about other people, all that habit is there. And we have to see it in order to realize that we need to purify it. And when we see the junk in our mind, it makes us kind of humble. When we're humble, we can do purification. When we're arrogant, we can't purify because we already know it all. So the Tibetans have an expression that the grass doesn't grow on the peaks of the mountains. It grows in the low valleys. So when we have made ourselves high and noble, and wonderful and beyond fault, and we're so arrogant, then how are we ever going to purify? Because we don't even see ourselves as somebody needing purification. We see ourselves as, I'm right, I know what's best, everybody should do it my way, and there's nothing to discuss. So if you have that attitude, doing purification, it's not going to work. Because it's like somebody saying, my room is already clean, why are you telling me to clean it? It's already clean. And somebody's going, excuse me, look over there, and look here, and look here, and look in front of your nose. I don't see any dirt. My room is clean. Get off my back. Yeah. So that arrogance becomes a big obstacle. So, when you see this stuff, it makes you humble, and then you really take refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha, because you really see, I'm a patient. I am sick in samsara. I am suffering from afflictions and karma, and I need help. And when you figure out you really need help, then you're open and receptive to listen to the Buddha's teachings. But when we don't think we need help, then why listen to the Buddha's teachings? I don't need help about anything. Yeah. All already know the teachings. This stuff is simple. It's obvious. Yeah. But we never practice it. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So the mantra really works on you. Sometimes when you're reciting the mantra, you can feel your ordinary energy and the mantra energy, and they are not in sync. Those of you who've done the retreat, have you had that experience? The feeling of the mantra, and then your ordinary, I'm dissatisfied, I want to get up and do something else energy. It's like the gears are grinding, you know? And then you go, ooh, okay, I have some purification to do. Yeah. Okay. So, we went through the mantra already, and in the book, there's a translation of the mantra. So you're essentially calling out to Vajrasattva, asking for Vajrasattva's inspiration, support, guidance, and so forth. Okay? When it says 100,000 mantra, it's the long one, not the short one. Okay? Just thought I'd mention that. Okay, and then while reciting the mantra, you continue to do the visualization, to visualize the flow of light and nectar, and then you do the 4 following visualizations alternately. Okay, so I'll describe each visualization, but what you can do is you can spend a whole session just doing one visualization. You can spend many sessions just doing one. You can spend 5 minutes doing one within a session, 10 minutes doing another, and just do 2. You can do 3, you can do 4, you can do it as you feel, using the visualization that most resonates with you at any particular time. Okay? And so since one of them really corresponds with negativities of the body, one with speech and one with mind, you might do that particular one when you're contemplating the negativities you've committed, either physically with your body, verbally with your speech, or mentally with your mind. Okay, so the first one, purification of body. So your afflictions and negativities in general, and remember all these broken precepts and commitments and all of that, and particularly those of the body. So you can purify body, speech, and mind with all of these, but particularly the physical ones. Take on the form of black ink. Okay, now you don't visualize this stuff inside your body, but rather you visualize as the negativity's coming out, it comes out as black ink. So it's not that you visualize that you're filled up with black ink, or that you're filled up with pus and blood, or scorpions, or frogs, or things like that. But rather, because you're filled up with the light nectar, so when you think the negativities are coming out, they come out in that form. Okay? So black ink, or just some kind of polluted filth. Okay? Sickness takes the form of pus and blood, and afflictions by non-human beings appear in the form of scorpions, snakes, frogs, and crabs. If that visualization of scorpions, snakes, frogs, and crabs really grabs your imagination, you don't have to think it's only afflictions from spirits that come out that way. You can think, my miserable attitude towards other people is coming out in that way. Okay? So it's flushed out by the light and nectar. They all leave your body through the lower openings. Okay? So all this stuff is just pouring out like filthy liquid flowing from a drain pipe. Okay, so it's stinky, it's filthy, it's disgusting, and it's coming out of you, and you are now free of it. Okay, so you feel completely empty of these problems and negativities. They no longer exist anywhere. So when this stuff comes out of you, the ink and the filth and the crabs and snakes and frogs and whatever else you don't like, and the pus and the blood, and it all comes out of you, it's not that it now starts spreading in the room and, piling up outside, and that's why everybody in the room's coughing and sneezing. Okay, it's not that. As soon as it comes out, it vanishes. It's gone. So you don't kind of imagine, a whole little zoo of snakes around you, okay, or a whole ocean of, black ink and putrid stuff. It comes out and it's gone. Yeah? So this visualization is really something when you get into it, and just especially when you think of things about yourself that you really don't like, or things you've done that you just feel awful about and disgusted and you don't want to ever do that again, or attitudes that you've had, that are just yuck, then, this all comes pouring out of you like this just disgusting stuff. And it vanishes, and you are filled with the blissful wisdom, compassion, nectar of Vajrasattva. Okay? So you have to let this happen to you. Yeah. Don't close all the orifices and keep all the negativities inside. You have to let go and forgive yourself and really think, this is getting purified now. I'm really ending this. Okay, so you feel completely empty of these problems and negativities and all this kind of stuff, and they no longer exist anywhere. Then purification of speech, so your afflictions, the disturbing attitudes, negative emotions, and the imprints of negativities of speech, okay, take the form of liquid tar. Have you ever seen liquid tar? It stinks. Yeah. In India, they use it, because they make the asphalt right there in a little can by the side of the road. And it stinks to high heaven, and it's ugh. Okay? And the light and nectar fill your body like water fills a dirty glass. Okay? So when you fill a filthy glass, those of you who wash dishes, yeah, the negativities like the dirt rise to the top and flow out through the upper openings of your body, your eyes, ears, mouth, nose, etc. So all this liquid tar and filthy gunk is coming up and out. Okay, so out of your ears, out of your eyes, out of your nose, out of your mouth, and it's all disappearing. It's gone. Okay? Gone forever. Yeah. So especially here, this one is speech. You can think of, all the horrible, nasty things we've said to other people. How we've been so uncooperative, so deceitful. Maybe not you, because I know that you're all kind of angels. But, for somebody like me, then, just the horrible motivations and manipulation and deceit and pretension and, ill will towards other people and horrible jealousy and, and all the activities of speech motivated by those kinds of afflictions. And then all the karmic imprints, that those actions have left. Yeah. And so, again, thinking about experiencing the results of those karmic imprints and not wanting to, then we want to purify. Okay, so we use the visualization rising up and out. And there you can really feel, sit and feel how the light and nectar starts at the bottom and just fills you up. Yeah. In the first one, it's just going down. And, you can imagine it, sometimes if it works for you, like kind of milk, something, really smooth and, very, very nice, a very nice kind of texture to it. And it's just flowing down in the first one. The second one is like starting at the bottom and going up and, filling you up. And all this stuff just comes out. It has no choice. Okay? And then purification of mind. So your mental negativities and the imprints of mental negative actions appear as darkness at your heart. So, let me go back to the other one. With speech, I find it interesting because we're talking about eyes, ears, nose, mouth. These are our primary sense organs, aren't they? So you can think also of like all the times where I've been completely misled by attachment to sensory perceptions, how I've gotten so attached to different things and so hooked on different things that I'm seeing or hearing or tasting or touching, feeling, and just purify all of that. Here in this one, okay, appear as darkness at your heart. So that's kind of like, when we're depressed, how do we feel? There's a weight here and we're dark. Or sometimes we just wake up and we feel heavy and kind of dark inside. Yeah, so that kind of feeling. And when struck by the forceful stream of light and nectar, the darkness instantly vanishes. So it's like turning a light on in a dark room. The darkness doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, it simply ceases to exist. So try that, watch that when you go in a room and turn on the light. The darkness doesn't go anywhere. It's just gone. So in the same way, when this light comes down and hits your heart, the mental darkness is just gone. Okay? And feel that you are completely empty of all of these problems and all these negativities and so forth. They're non-existent. And then the fourth visualization, the simultaneous purification, is you do the three above visualizations simultaneously. So the first visualization purified especially physical actions, the second especially verbal actions, the third especially mental actions. And then this one, and they all three of those purified afflictions. So when we ask, the afflictive obscurations that keep us bound in cyclic existence, they're afflictions and karma. So that's what the first three are purifying. This last one are the cognitive obscurations, okay, the subtle latencies of the afflictions that pollute the mind and prevent it from knowing all phenomena and still cause mistaken appearances in the mind. Okay, so the simultaneous purification sweeps away these subtle obscurations that prevent you from seeing correctly all that exists. In other words, from being a Buddha, and feel completely free of these obscurations. Okay? So it's quite a powerful visualization, yeah. And this is what you do, and your ability to do it well depends on how much regret you have, and how much refuge you have, and how much bodhicitta you have. Because when you have strengthen these other things that came before, and even the last one that's going to follow, the determination not to do it again, when all of these are strong, and you really have this feeling of faith and trust in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and the purification process in Vajrasattva, then, things really start to work. And, you do the visualization, it really has a strong effect on you. Yeah. And sometimes you may even find that, when you're doing the retreat and saying the mantra a lot, you may dream of Vajrasattva and say the mantra in your sleep. Yeah, it just kind of is, instead of the old imprints of, somebody's chasing me or I'm chasing somebody in our dreams, instead of those imprints, we're having the imprint of the mantra comes. That's quite nice. Okay, questions about it? Yeah.
Sometimes we are asked to visualize a lot of death.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Also to seal his mouth with a double door.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So another way, one way to do it is all these things come out and they just vanish. Another way is you could think of the Lord of Death. There's no real Lord of Death, but we're anthropomorphizing things. And he's below, the earth opens up, and he comes out, and he has this big gaping mouth, and he's ugly and has fangs and everything. And you can imagine when all the stuff, the negativities are coming out in these various forms, that it's flowing down into his mouth. And for him, for the Lord of Death, all these negativities are just like delicious chocolate. It's like, more, and you just think that the Lord of Death eats them all up. And then at the end of the practice, he closes his mouth, and you imagine a double dorje, a double vajra like that, sealing. Sealing his mouth. And then he disappears under the earth again, and the earth covers up, and he's totally satisfied and goes back to the netherworld. Okay, yeah.
What does it mean, affliction caused by spirit?
Sometimes when we have harmed other living beings, if they are born as spirits, they can adversely influence us. So from this kind of perspectives, different types, let's say, of mental illness may be caused by spirits, or sometimes certain physical ailments could, be caused by spirits. This, particularly pertains to the Indo-Tibetan cultural view of things, In the West, we tend not to think of spirits so much. Actually, His Holiness tells the Tibetans that they think of spirits, that they blame too many things on spirits. Yeah. But sometimes people do have spirit offenses, somebody's disturbing their mind or their body in some way. Yeah. So here you just think that that's all also getting purified. Yeah. Any kind of psychic hindrance. Yeah. Maybe you could call it bad vibes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Does the nectar and the light know what the defilements are, or is it best that we list them?
Well, you can think about them while you're doing it, because you've brought them to mind before when you've done the power of regret, and so while you're meditating and doing the visualization, you can review them again and think of them again.
And if there are some that which I'm sure would be the case, you haven't named, you don't.
Right. Okay, because this is, thank you for bringing this up, because we're not just purifying things from this life. We're purifying things from previous lives. And so we can't remember specific incidents from previous lives. Sometimes by watching the kind of habits we have in this lifetime, we can take a guess at certain negative habits, that we had in previous lifetimes also. Because we're very much creatures of habit. So, just as our positive habits can come with us, so can negative ones. Okay, so we might purify those. Or, I think it's helpful to confess and purify even things that we can't imagine we would ever have done. Because they say we've been everything in cyclic existence. And we've done everything in cyclic existence. So I also find this very helpful when I see other people doing actions that I consider despicable or horrible. I think in previous lives I've done that. And that karmic imprint may still be on my mind. I don't remember the action. I don't need to remember it in everything. But that imprint may be on my mind, and if it ripens, it's going to cause me a lower rebirth or a lot of suffering in this lifetime. So I want to pure, all the times in previous lives when I've killed people. All the times when I've been a mass murderer. Yeah, it makes you very humble, and it makes us stop judging other people. Because we realize we have the same potential in ourselves. As long as we have anger and ignorance, we're not free of the potential, the possibility of doing horrible things. So we have to really purify those potentials and possibilities so that they don't, so that other conditions don't, sometimes feed them. And here we find ourselves doing something that we never would have ever dreamt we could have done. Okay? So I find this very helpful, like I said, to do when I see people doing other negative actions, like when you read the news and then you think all the times I've done that in previous lives. Or when you're in the 35 Buddha practice and the practice all after that, all the times, that I've lied to spiritual mentors or stolen from the Sangha or criticized the Sangha or, done all sorts of who knows what, because we don't know. I mean, maybe we were a soldier, a communist soldier in a previous life and went around destroying Buddhist temples in Asia. Yeah? Maybe we were in Adolf Hitler's army. Yeah? Who knows what we did? Yeah, and it's not. I'm just using these as examples of things in this life, but we've been born in other life forms or other universes. Who knows what in the world we did? So it's good to just confess all of that all together, okay, and really let this light and nectar come in and purify it. Yeah, so you can't sit there and hang on to, I'm such a lousy person, I can't be forgiven. You have to let go of that. Okay?
I just want to go back to Venerable Yesha's question. The people who have schizophrenia, would that be possible to think about the disease as people are affected by spirit?
Yeah. Yeah. In the Tibetan community, they don't necessarily think about, the brain chemistry. Yeah, so if somebody has schizophrenia, sometimes they're regarded as possibly a medium, and sometimes they're regarded, as they have a spirit offense. Yeah. Let me tell you a story. I was rooming with one woman many years ago when I was in Dharamsala, and she was there because she was doing research for her PhD dissertation, and she was researching something in the Tibetan community. So there was this young Tibetan woman who was translating for her. Now, this young Tibetan woman one day has what in the West we would call a nervous breakdown. Yeah? Of course, they don't have that vocabulary in the Tibetan community. So what do her parents do when she has this nervous breakdown is they take her to a lama and ask him to do these pujas to, to stop the spirit offense. Yeah, so the lama's doing pujas. As he's talking to the girl and the family, it comes out that the girl is in love with one young man, but her parents don't want her to marry him. They want her to marry somebody else who she doesn't like. Okay? So in our culture, it would make sense she had a nervous breakdown. There's this horrible tension between her and her parents, and parents really dictate a lot, about who you marry and what happens. And so she has a nervous breakdown. In the Tibetan culture, they say, oh, she has a spirit offense. Anyway, the Lama told the parents to let her marry who she wanted to marry, and she got better. Yeah? So they don't know if it was that or the spirits or, the pujas the Lama did or who knows what. Yeah, but she got better. Huh? In a lot of cultures where especially women are disempowered, and they are not allowed in their culture to voice what they need or what they think, and it's a culture that believes in spirits, then often the women are said to have spirit possession. Yeah, because this may be the only way that they can let their family know that something is wrong. They can't say it in words. The society doesn't permit it. So it comes out in some kind of behavior. And then the family goes, oh, something's wrong. What's up? And then they pay attention to her and try and help her. And then also she goes to, whoever in the community is regarded as able to deal with these things. And it's dealt with and she gets cured. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think in the West, though, a lot of women got a lot of drugs and they didn't get cured. They got worse.
Mm.
Whether it was the coke that was like cocaine originally,
Mm-hmm.
that women were given in the turn of the century, to even now. They prescribe so many tranquilizers and mood elevators and whatever they want to give you. You walk out with these prescriptions in your hand and say, okay, you can afford those. But
Yeah.
they still do it.
Yeah.
To women, they don't give a man the Prozac or the Valium or the lithium or whatever it is.
Even if he comes in with the same complaints as a woman? They do now? Mm. Maybe the men don't. Well, also, men are not allowed to talk about those things. So a man comes in with a stomach ache. He comes in with something like that maybe, because he's not allowed to say, I'm upset and I have emotions. Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's any significance to the light and the nectar. Like, is there any difference between the two? Or
They usually say that the light has more to do with Sutra Yana practice and the nectar with Vajrayana practice. But there's a certain kind of difference in texture and feelings. So, yeah, both of them. Mm-hmm.
Today in our discussion, we had the topic about depression, and everybody in the small group had deal with depression or still dealing with depression. Asking myself, how would does Vajrasattva help, and are there additional Buddhist approaches
Okay, so how can Vajrasattva help with the issue of depression? Okay, in many ways. First of all, the light comes in and fills your whole body and mind, and the depression's gone. Yeah, it's very hard to be depressed when you imagine your whole body and mind filled with light and nectar. Yeah, and you think it's coming from the Buddha who has compassion for you. It's hard to be depressed. So that's one thing. A second is thinking, what are the actions that I may have done in the past that have ripened in terms of depression? Okay? So it could have been, I think, especially actions of anger, where we've made other people suspicious, where we've made other people feel unsafe, where we have degraded other people, or imprisoned other people, or caused them to lose their self-confidence, or caused them to be separated from, what they need for a happy life. So it seemed, this is my guess when I think about depression, that it would come from that kind of karma. So you can think, okay, all those actions that I may have committed are getting purified. Yeah. I also think, and here I'm not talking so much about depression that comes from chemical imbalances, but the other depression that has more to do with the way you think, that depression is also involved in self-centeredness and afflictions. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm depressed, who am I thinking about all the time? Myself. Yeah, in a very negative light.
Isn't it anger toward yourself?
I don't know. It may be, it may not be. But it's just, feelings of being worthless, of being unloved, of, even being bored. We can feel bored. That bored, I think, may come from attachment. Because attachment wants something glittery and exciting, and we're not getting it, so we're bored. Yeah, but the depression that is just, I'm such an awful person, I think that could come especially from maliciousness. Having malice and ill will towards others and making them feel bad and, voicing that verbally and so on. To me it would make sense that could ripen as depression. So then you think, okay, all those actions, whatever I've done this life, whatever I've done previous lives from beginningless time, all of those I am regretting and I am determining not to do again, and I am purifying.
I was going to say that one thing that helped me think about depression was I heard something somewhere that said that very often people who are depressed are ruminating on the past, and if you have anxiety, you're ruminating on the future. This thing about being depressed and feeling like I should have done, or I should have been, or I should have, you're really back in the past.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, that these are generalities, but they do make sense, that when you're stuck in depression, somehow the mind's stuck in the past. I should have, could have, ought to have, why didn't it, whatever.
Would have been this way.
Yeah, and anxiety is very geared towards the future. What if? Oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And so, trying to just be here right now with Vajrasattva and this light and nectar coming, that's all you have to do. You don't have to get stuck in the past. You don't have to be anxious about the future. You just stay right here and now with Vajrasattva and the light and nectar. Mm-hmm.
Is the blissful feeling a sign that it's working, or does that have to be there? Or
it's nice if it's there, isn't it? Yeah. If it's not, then don't get anxious and don't beat yourself up and tell yourself you're doing something wrong. Just, imagine feeling relaxed, imagine feeling fulfilled or content. You know, because I often, what does bliss mean? Have I ever really felt blissful? So sometimes it makes you imagine, what would it be like to feel blissful? I'm not quite sure what that feels like. Or, you know, put it in different language. What would it feel like to be content with who I am, what I do, what I have? What would it be like to feel fulfilled? Or what would it be like to feel satisfied? What would it feel like to feel at peace? So use other words or other phrases. Yeah.
One of the things that in the beginning that I got kind of stuck on was to be specific, which helps. But, for example, with speech, in my case, if I were to be specific about every little wrongful thing that I said, I would not be able to leave this room this lifetime.
Yeah. So that's why you generalize. You may take one thing that's like really strong in your mind. Oh, that one day I said something really nasty. I regret that, and I regret all the other harmful speeches. You put it in categories. You don't have to think about each one individually, because especially when you could, I mean, you said even in this life you wouldn't get out. What about for beginningless time? You know, so you know you do categories of behaviors. Yeah.
I experience this with the 35 Buddhas sometimes, where it feels like one session isn't enough for a certain.
Yes, so you continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, you purify something again and again and again. Even though, and we'll get to it tomorrow, you know, at the end we feel, and we're instructed to feel, that is now gone, that is now finished. And we really try and put it down and feel that way. Since our mind usually doesn't really feel that way, and since there are usually a lot of imprints in a certain strain of negativities, we purify things again and again and again. So you don't just think that regretting it once and then it's gone forever, you know, but we keep purifying different things because we realize it's like washing a cloth that's really filthy. The first time, you know, you get some of the really bad dirt out, but then the second time you get some more, and the third time you get some more, and you need to do it a lot to purify, to clean your cloth.
I'm glad you said that. Because it seems like you feel like you've really purified certain things, and then they just hit you like a ton of bricks like 6 months later or a year later.
Yep.
Little girl with feet position, right?
Yeah. So you just keep purifying those things, you know, and you'll find as you do the practice, some things, they just cycle around, and they come up again and again and again. Yeah.
I was doing that for one thing, and then there was a day where I decided, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And I actually asked my mom about something that had happened, and I found out a completely different thing had happened than I thought had happened.
Wow.
And I never would have asked, because I was so scared and so ashamed of what happened, that I wouldn't have asked if I hadn't started to kind of get it out. It was amazing. You know, I felt so light after that.
Yeah, that it didn't, all these years I've imagined that happened, and it didn't really even happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of lightness, that's that feeling that you want to have. Okay. Okay. So that should give you something to do this evening and tomorrow morning in the practice. Yeah?